solo tonight. But sometimes there comes, you see some things in the news, or particularly in the Catholic world, and you just feel the need, like you have to say something about it. And I saw it in a couple places, but then I came across an article that was in the so-called National Catholic Reporter, which is better known as the National Catholic Distorter. Okay. And I'm sorry, I try to be charitable. I really do. But, this is a left-wing rag. The things that are said on this in this publication might as well be coming straight from the Democrat Party. Might as well be coming straight from them. It's so anti-traditionalist, and sometimes just blatantly anti-Catholic. And I'm going to go and get into some of the reasons why, but particularly their news editor, Peter Feuerherd, he wrote an article, and I just wanted to comment on it. I wanted to bring out to you the more salient points in this article. But first, let me give you some background. But just remember that we're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo. I'm usually joined by Joe Resinello, my partner. You could see both of us. We go live at 8 o'clock on Sunday nights, and all of our videos are up on YouTube and Facebook and many other sites, particularly Holy Faith Media. So if you're a member of Holy Faith Media, you'll find us there. We have some great interviews, that we've done recently. Those are all up there. But please, most importantly, if you like what we do, if you see what we do, if you like this video, like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff, okay? And I try to do that with people that I value, people that who, when they say things, I listen to them. So I would ask, if you like this show, please do the same and let people know about us. So having said all that, let me get into this a little bit. And like I said, I'm gonna highlight the more salient points. But the reason why I felt like that I wanted to do this is because I'm tired. I don't want to be called a traditional Catholic. I just want to be known as a Catholic, just merely a Catholic. And if I do something according to what the church teaches, in my case, just give you an example, I do not go right now to the new Mass, the Novus Ordo Mass. My wife and I found a parish that celebrates the traditional Latin Mass. Okay, I don't want to be judged for that. I'm not judging you. If you're in the Novus Ordo, okay, that's fine. If you're receiving communion on the hand, church says it's okay. Okay, why are you judging us? And you'll see what I'm talking about, and you'll see why my anger gets a little bit going. So let me start here. Now, again, this is an article by Peter Feuerherd in the National Catholic Reporter. So religion scholar Maria Lichtman felt a strangeness overcome St. Elizabeth of the Hill Country Parish in Boone, North Carolina, 4 years ago. Father Matthew Codd, the then pastor at St. Elizabeth's, was joined by a group of seminarians who went through the church's theology library and removed books deemed to be heretical. Hang on one second. Including those of spiritual writers Henri Nouwen and Thomas Merton. The books were later burned, she was told by a parish staff member. Now, stop right there. Did he? Now, I know, in fairness to Mr. Newhart, he did reach out to some of the people I'm going to mention at the diocese, and they didn't want to go. They didn't want to respond. They didn't respond. I don't blame them. There's no way of knowing if those books were burned. Unless the person was out there while the books were being burned, there's no way to know that. And this man, as a reporter, should know that he shouldn't report that without getting some sort of corroboration, or at least indicating in the story that he's got some sort of corroboration. So Lichtman, a retired religious studies professor at Appalachian State University, left the region in part, she told NCR, because of the changes in the parish. She now lives in Georgia. Quote, I felt it was a lost cause, close quote, she said about St. Elizabeth's. The spirit, now this is Newhart again, the spirit of hyper-orthodoxy in parish leadership continued, noted Lichtman, after Father Codd, was replaced by Father Brendan Buckler in July 2019. And so the article goes on like this. But what I want to do is kind of pick it apart and reveal some absolute hostility. This is my point in doing this. This is not hostility towards them. This is a reaction towards their hostility. And you're going to understand why. All of you are going to understand why. It's hostility towards anyone in the church who's trying to return to some sense of orthodoxy. And that same, here's the ironic part. That same hostility is usually being shown by all those people who profess to be the most tolerant among us. We're all supposed to be tolerant. Didn't anybody tell you that? Well, these people aren't so tolerant, and I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to show you why. So let's keep it going. Again, this is Newhard. Nearing 18 months since Buckler arrived on the edge of Boone, a college town and popular retirement community in the mountain foothills, a few dozen now gather every other Sunday at a car restoration shop shared by a hospitable non-Catholic, the husband of a parishioner. And then a common ritual is repeated. Mass is said in English with a priest facing the tiny congregation. A few popular hymns are sung. Communion is distributed in the hand, both because of a safety provision during the pandemic and because congregants like it that way. Very important. I'm going to come back to that. Even if that approach is discouraged at St. Elizabeth. Now, here's the thing. It's a hardship. It really is a hardship to having to sing songs that are actually Catholic. And it's a hardship to receive Jesus in a more reverent way, namely on the tongue. Okay. Now, here's the thing. And I want you to stay with me here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Okay. I'm not saying that you can't receive communion on the tongue because I'm not the church. And the church says that you can. But do you see the hostility? Soon as a good priest comes in and tries to bring in some semblance of tradition, some semblance of orthodoxy. I'm sorry. I don't care how it sounds. One of the reasons why I left the Novus Ordo, I don't want any more Protestant songs. I don't. I'm tired of it. Okay. What? We have 2,000 years of Catholic tradition and we have to have Protestant songs in our liturgy. I don't like them. Okay. And maybe at one point I did, but now I'm a more mature Catholic. And you want to know something? Quite frankly, I don't want them. Now, I want to give you a couple of examples of what we're talking about in this last paragraph. Number one, on the first Saturday every month, I go, generally speaking, unless something comes up, I go down to Old St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. And it's there that the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal hold Mass. They celebrate Mass at 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And that's before processing down to Planned Parenthood to pray the rosary in front of Planned Parenthood. But let's stick with the Mass. Okay. That Mass that's celebrated by the Franciscans is a Novus Ordo Mass. It is one of the most reverent and respectful Masses I've ever been at. I quite frankly love going to it. I actually like that Mass. Not that this is about what I like, but I'm just giving you my view. I actually prefer that Mass to the Latin Mass. Okay. But that Mass is only once a month and it's on Saturday mornings. It does not count towards Sunday obligation. So my wife and I found a traditional Latin Mass parish. It's probably about 25 miles away. And we'll get into that in a second too. My point is that at Mass celebrated by the Franciscans first Saturday of every month at Old St. Patrick's, there's many priests on the altar, which of course is very welcome. All right. There's many priests on the altar. The hymns are in Latin. There's an older woman along with an oboe player who sings all the hymns in Latin, the prayers in Latin. So it's the Gloria, Agnus Dei. You know the prayers. Everybody, the Pater Noster. All right. This is a beautiful, reverent Novus Ordo Mass with some Latin infused into it. That's what it is, with lots of priests. And they're facing us. Okay. So it's not like I'm going out of my way for a Latin liturgy. What I am going out of my way for is reverence. And it seems like these people who are gathering in this guy's garage, mechanic's garage, it seems like they just want things the way they want them. So you see, the thing is, okay, but if it's going to be a matter of parish shopping, well, guess what? Most of the people in this country who are traditional Catholic have to do parish shopping. What's the problem? So do you. You don't like it, but I'm supposed to like it when I walk into just an ordinary Catholic Mass on Sunday, and I find blatantly, it's not like I'm looking for it, but blatantly there's just blatant abuses that go on. The homilies, I'm sorry, very seldom are they hard-hitting homilies. I always get hard-hitting homilies that Catholics need to hear, whether I go down to the Franciscans on the first Saturday or whether I go to the traditional Latin Mass. The homilies are always spot on. And most importantly, not because I think it's things that other people need to hear. I hear the things coming from the pulpit that I need to hear because I'm a sinner. Okay. And I want to hear that the priest has something to say about me, a sinner who is in need of redemption and in need of salvation. So that's where we're at with that. Let's keep going. But here's the thing though. It was the way he phrased it, because congregants like it that way. Before we move on, let me state clearly, just so everybody knows, no matter what anybody says to you, no matter what any priest says to you, no matter what any lay person says to you, no matter what, okay, I know this. I don't know everything about church teaching. I am not a theologian, but I will say this, okay? The Mass is not about me. The Mass is not about you. Any Mass. Not just your Sunday obligation Mass. The Mass is never about you and the way you like it. The Mass is about Jesus Christ. That is who the Mass is about. That is who the Mass is directed towards, not you. We need a little humility. Okay, I had to learn that. Okay, I had to learn that. We need a little humility. The Mass is about Christ, and some people want to go back to that because in a lot of these places, the Mass does not seem to be about Christ. So let me keep going. Newer Herd then goes on to cry about the fact that if these parishioners want a parish that accommodates them, they have to drive 45 minutes away. Okay, give me a break. Give me a break. The word parish orphans is not directed or did not come into being. The phrase parish orphans directed at those who attend the Novus Ordo Mass. Parish orphans are those who find that the Catholic Church, and again, I'm 53 years old, so I became aware of what the Mass was after the Novus Ordo. All right, but I still remember in my 53 years, or let's say that's going back to when I was 6 or 7 years old, when I received First Holy Communion. That Mass, even though it was Novus Ordo at my old parish in Newark, New Jersey, was infinitely more reverent than what we see today. The homilies were infinitely more spot on than what we see today. And that's just a fact. And if you have to drive 45 minutes, so what? So what? If you have no problem, and we're going to get into the reasons why they don't even have to drive 45 minutes, because I did a very superficial bit of research, which I'm going to get into in a second. So here's what they're running away from. St. Elizabeth's Parish now features 3 Masses in English each week, 1 in Spanish and 4 in Latin, and celebrated in pre-Vatican II style, with the priest facing the altar. Let's stop right there. The priest is not facing the altar. The priest is facing Jesus Christ. The priest does not have his back to the congregation. The priest is facing Jesus Christ. 2 different ways of looking at the same thing. The priest is facing Jesus Christ. When the priest turns towards the congregation, the priest has his back towards Jesus Christ. So let's get that straight, okay? So with the priest facing the altar instead of the congregation, while some have left, others, enamored of the traditional style liturgy, are now regulars. I mean, what is this, a bar, a restaurant? They're regulars. Is that what you call them? So you hear the condescension in Mr. Newhart. You hear the judgmentalism. You hear the intolerance in every word. Don't worry about it. It gets worse. So there are many cars in the parking lot that have plates from out of state or out of the region. Now, here's what I did. I went on the website, and this way everybody can hear this. Okay, I went on the website and I wanted to see what their Mass schedule was. I wanted to see just how oppressive their Mass schedule was. Okay, so Saturday at 4:30 p.m. This is the vigil. Okay, which many people go to on Saturday night. 4:30 p.m. vigil, ordinary form, English liturgy, homily, and prayers with Latin chant and mixed hymns. Sounds pretty oppressive to me. Sunday at 9 o'clock a.m. Ordinary form, English liturgy, homily, and prayers with Latin chant and mixed hymns. Goes on. Now, this is from the parish website, okay? St. Elizabeth Parish website. Sunday, 11:30 a.m. Ordinary form, Spanish language Mass. Geez, these people in North Carolina, they might, they probably voted for Donald Trump. They probably hate minorities. Well, they're doing a Spanish Mass. And I'm not saying that about them, of course, but you can almost You can almost hear that. They have a Spanish Mass. Now, here's, I guess, what rubs them the wrong way. Sunday at 1 o'clock, extraordinary form traditional high Latin Mass, Latin chant, dual gospel, English homily, mixed hymn and prayers. And very quickly, during the week, Tuesday, traditional Latin low Mass, Wednesday, English language Mass, Thursday, traditional Latin low Mass, Friday, traditional Latin low Mass, first Saturday in the month, 10 a.m., extraordinary form traditional Latin high Mass. Again, English homily, dual gospel, mixed prayers, and hymns. So this is, again, from their website. We currently do not, we do not currently offer an all English or an all Latin Mass. English Masses include Latin chants and occasional Latin hymns. Latin Masses include English homilies, Gospels, prayers, and hymns. What's the problem? I'm going to ask again, all these people who feel like they've been abandoned. What's the problem? Why do you have to run away from that? That means if you go to the Latin Mass, okay, the priest is praying all the prayers in Latin. He's facing ad orientem. You're getting the gospel in English. You're getting the homily in English. And then there's mixed hymns, so it's Latin and English. And the prayers are in English. Again, what's the problem? It shows you, it really is revealing how many of these, let's just call them liberals, how many of these liberals, they hate orthodoxy. And they hate every last bit of it. And they want every last bit of it shut down. So if you want to sing the Agnus Dei, okay, you can't. You can't. And guess what? They're going to make sure you can. So now let's move on. So Buckler, Father Buckler, he calls him Buckler. Just a little lack of respect right there. Even the priest I don't like, Father James Martin, I never refer to him as James Martin, ever. He's Father James Martin, whether I like him or not. But you see that they don't even have the respect. Mr. Neuhardt doesn't even have the respect to refer to him as Father Buckler, okay? Buckler is among a number of pastors in the Charlotte Diocese who are dubbed Restorationists, Traditionalists, or in some cases, here comes a big slur, Radtrads. They're often younger than other priests. Buckler was ordained in 2011 for the Raleigh Diocese, and they are trained in a liturgical tradition foreign to most Vatican II Catholics. It doesn't have to be that foreign. You could see Latin Masses on TV. You could go on YouTube. You could get all. It's only foreign because you choose for it to be foreign. Okay? And it was foreign to me before I found one because it seems that many of the dioceses are set up to keep the Latin Mass away from people. So again, I drive 20 minutes to a half hour to go to Mass on Sunday mornings. What's the problem? Right, they're trained in a tradition that predates Vatican II by about 2,000 years. I just wish some of these people would stop and they try to convince you that everything in Catholic tradition does not go beyond 1962, 1965, the years of the council. That there's tradition before. There's not cease to exist. When Vatican II, regardless of what on the Council of Trent or Validus of Errors or any of it, okay? So it says that I am connected. Okay. So if somebody's in the chat room, let me know that you could hear me. So Bishop Peter Jugas of Charlotte has invited them into his diocese. Now this is Neuhardt again. Has invited them into his diocese, and now they lead a number of parishes, much to the chagrin of some older clergy who mostly quietly question their bishop's judgment. Jugas recently opened the junior seminary to help train future pastors in a similar mode. But here's what I don't. When all the liberals took over the seminaries, you went out of your way to make sure that you broke down any sense of tradition in them, any sense whatsoever, okay? But then you don't like it when somebody tries to restore, as you call them restorationists, restore some tradition. Well, the leaders of those seminaries, the heads of those seminaries, they want to inform these young seminarians in traditional Latin rites. Again, I don't get the problem. You have the problem with it. I don't have the problem with it. So here comes the attack now. This is, I mean, what I told you up till now is kind of like tame. Here comes the attack. Many traditionalist seminarians seek training in regular seminary classes, but on their own time, they follow, now catch this, they follow leaders such as Taylor Marshall and Church Militant, both anti-Francis websites. That's not fair. That is not fair at all, okay? Because if you consider somebody to be anti-Francis, your definition of that is that they criticize some of the writings and some of the things that Pope Francis has said in the last, let's say, since 2013, which is completely legitimate. As long as someone is being respectful, they could question, just like the dubia, just like when Cardinal Burke and 3 others, 2 of whom are now have gone to their reward. All right, just like when they respectfully issued the dubia, they didn't come out and attack Pope Francis. They issued dubia, which is their right to do, to ask for clarification on Amoris Laetitia. So if Taylor Marshall, and I'm not here to defend Taylor Marshall or Church Militant, but I'm going to, all right, if they have a problem with something that Pope Francis says and they express a problem with it, and it's a legitimate criticism, that does not mean that they're anti-Francis. It doesn't. Not in the same way that all you guys, Mr. Newhard, are certainly critical of Pope Benedict XVI. Yeah, and further in the article, I'll make sure I mention how he attacks John Paul II and anybody who values the teachings and the writings of John Paul II, which are numerous. All right. Or how about Pope Pius XII? How about Pope Pius XI? How about Pope Pius X? Pope Benedict XV? Okay, going all the way back for the last 150 years prior to the council. All right, you have no problem attacking them. You're anti them, but the difference is you're really anti them. All these men are doing, Taylor Marshall, Michael Voris, and others, is very simply saying, we have a problem with this statement, or we have a problem with this teaching. We need to talk about it. And as Catholics, we have the right to, as long as we're being respectful and as long as we're not attacking in any sort of vicious way. If we're speaking the truth with charity, that's all that matters. You seem to lack charity, which I'll get into in a minute. So again, back to Newhard. While the faculty at St. Mary's offers a curriculum much in line with Vatican II teachings, so the faculty there, all right, offers a curriculum much in line with Vatican II teachings, okay, said, or seminarians are often inclined to go online where they are presented an alternative vision. Again, what does that mean, an alternative vision? I don't understand what the alternative vision is. These are people who want to hold to the traditions of the church. Pope Benedict XVI says any priest does not have to ask permission to celebrate a Latin Mass. Pope Benedict XVI said that, okay? That still stands. So I don't get it. If you want to be trained in it, if you're a priest that wants to be trained in the traditional liturgy, you have every right to do so, or find a seminary that's going to train you that way. So they are told Francis is failing. This is the stuff that upsets me. There they are told that Francis, now this is in those seminaries, that Francis is failing to proclaim church teaching, that most bishops are lacking in orthodoxy, and that it will be up to a new, younger priest to rescue the church from its shortcomings. If you can't see shortcomings in the church, Mr. Newhard, if you can't see the bad fruit that's resulted from the hijacking of Vatican II, then you have your head in the sand, my friend. Then you're absolutely blind, okay? Because there are a lot of people, there's a lot of bishops who are lacking in orthodoxy. You only have to read what they say. I'm not beating them over the head, but there are many bishops in the world who say things that are not orthodox or not Catholic teaching. To suggest that someone who points that out is bashing the bishops, I don't get it. I would say there's mostly good bishops. 2/3 of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops said that abortion is the preeminent issue facing us. The preeminent issue. You get that, Mr. Newhard? That means it's not equatable to climate change or immigration or wages or trade or anything like that. It's its own issue because it's so intrinsically evil. 2/3 of the bishops said that, but here's my point. 1/3 did not say that. 1/3 did not vote when they had a vote on that to state that abortion is the preeminent issue. Now that's sad. That's sad. And that goes against orthodoxy because abortion is the preeminent issue. And we need to get it through our heads, okay? So now, quote, this thing has been coming out of the cult of John Paul. Now, here's the thing. He just got done saying, Mr. Newhart, that Taylor Marshall and Michael Voris are anti-Francis. He just got done saying that, but yet, and he doesn't show any corroboration for that. Post a link. Do something, Mr. Newhart. There's plenty of links you could have posted in your article to back up your attack on Michael Voris and Taylor Marshall. But here's the thing. This thing has been coming out of the cult of John Paul. Now, who's the attacker? The cult of John Paul? Is that what it is? I have a picture of John Paul on my wall, okay? Right below the image of the Divine Mercy, okay? I was married on John Paul's birthday. My wife and I consider him our patron saint. Does that to you mean that I'm involved in a cult? That's what I am because of the cult of John Paul, or am I a follower of Jesus Christ? But you see, you have to attack, and you use the language that shows that you're on the attack. And then he notes that many of the seminarians discount the focus of Francis and his efforts to renew the church. I don't know where this renewal of the church, where you see this renewal of the church. I have a hard time with it. Again, the good Lord gave me reason and intelligence, so I can question this so-called renewal of the church. Are Pachimamas, is that renewal in the church? Is it in your mind? You know, false idols, we're supposed to just, celebrate that and put that right next to a crucifix or a statue of Mary. So I don't get it. Renew the church in what way? Changing teaching, changing doctrine, not developing doctrine, changing doctrine. That's not a renewal of the church. That's leading to division. That leads to division in the church, because Christ prayed that we all be of one mind, that we all be one. We are not. We are not all. We are not unified. And it's not the traditionalists that are doing this, because you went out of your way, Mr. Newhart, to write this article attacking people who want to bring back tradition. Okay? They didn't cast anybody out of the parish. They want to bring back tradition. And as I read earlier, they kept the English masses. The hymns are mixed. It's not a pure Latin mass like you're trying to make it out. The thing that bothers you is that the priest is facing ad orientem. I'm sure you don't have a lot of time for Cardinal Sarah either. So now, Franciscan Sister Katarina Schuth, I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly, S-C-H-U-T-H, Professor Emerita at the Seminaries of St. Paul in Minnesota, has spent decades analyzing seminarians and authored numerous articles and books on the subject. Seminary rectors are appointed by their local bishops, many of whom were formed during the John Paul II era. Here we go with John Paul again. With a premium based on loyalty. Oh, no, God forbid. It doesn't have anything to do with maybe orthodoxy, okay, or traditionalism. It's only loyalty. It's just blind loyalty. It has nothing to do with maybe Pope John Paul II's teachings and writings are more spot on than Pope Francis's. Maybe that's the case. Many of those rectors were moved up to become bishops themselves during the John Paul and Benedict eras, noted Schuth. Well, maybe they're tired of the abuses of Vatican II and they're trying to do something about it. And if you deny that there's abuses in Vatican II, then again, you have your head in the sand. We wouldn't have the divisions that we have if it wasn't for this idea. And I've heard this from a number of people. I know there's different sides to the argument. Vatican II documents are erroneous. The spirit of Vatican II is erroneous. The documents are good, and they've been hijacked for the purpose of this video, because I've read the documents, or let me not say all of them. I would say more than half the documents of Vatican II, I need to roll up my sleeves and go back into them. I don't see a problem with the documents themselves. However, even Professor Robert George, who was on our show at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, okay, even he said, when he defended Vatican II, he says, now let's talk about the hijacking of Vatican II, how the spirit of Vatican II was used to impose things that were never contained in the documents. Do you know the communion in the hand is not in the documents of Vatican II? Not. Turning to the priest, turning towards the congregation, it's not in the documents of Vatican II. They're not in there. But you see how the documents themselves and the so-called spirit of Vatican II has been hijacked. And then the hijacking enables the hijackers to impose their will on the church. And they've done a fantastic job for the last 50 years. Excuse me. So now she continues, Sister Schuth. These conservative seminarians are set apart in many ways from their peers, with a strong focus on evangelizing their age group members into traditional Catholic ways. Again, what's wrong with that? They'll latch on to, now these are the things that bother me. I'll give you a heads up when I come across something that really cheeses me off. They latch on to traditional modes and symbols. Symbols? Like what? Statues? Sacramentals? I don't know. Such as wearing elaborate cassocks. Again, Sister Shoot, there is no elaborate cassock. It's a contradiction in terms. Cassocks are not elaborate. It's just a black vestment. It's a black robe, like the movie Black Robe. The character in Black Robe wore a black robe, a black cassock. It goes down to your feet. There's nothing elaborate about it. It's not diamond studded or star studded. It's not colorful. It's black. It's black. It's very plain. There's nothing elaborate about it. So that's a lie. You've lied. Okay, but it's a means by which you try to attack these seminarians who want to be more traditional. She said that they will exert her church, she said they will exert influence on the church as more are ordained. Now, my comment on that is, let's hope and pray to God that they do. So she continues, it's a small number, but they're not insignificant because they tend to be active, she said of today's more tradition-minded seminarians. They immerse themselves. Again, if you just ate dinner, I'm sorry, you got to kind of hold on to your stomach a little bit. They immerse themselves in conservative Catholic media sites such as EWTN, LifeSite News, and Church Militant. Here she goes on the attack again. And the attack on EWTN, by the way, to call, by the way, EWTN conservative, I don't think is altogether truthful, not 100% truthful. They're conservative in many ways, okay, but they're not in many ways, or they're very kind of watered down, okay, unlike they used to be when I was away from the church, and I was born Catholic and baptized Catholic. I was away from the church, and I came back to the church, and a major influence in my coming back to the church was Mother Angelica and EWTN. So my comment is very simple, right, and it was the conservatism of Mother Angelica that brought not thousands, millions of people either into the church or home to the church, myself, like I said, being one of them. Now, how has your watered down Catholicism succeeded in bringing souls into the church? I wouldn't want to see those numbers, quite frankly, okay? But I do know that I'm one of millions of people that came into the church because of Mother Angelica, and dare I say, people she had on her channel at the time, like Father Carapi, and who are still on that channel, like Father Mitch Pacwa, okay, and others. Traditionalists, traditional-minded Catholics, okay? So you could attack EWTN all you want, okay? EWTN has done infinitely more than you ever have to bring people into the church. You keep that in mind. When you want to see the fruit, of something, Jesus said, just you'll know it, you'll know them by their fruit. Well, I know EWTN was good because of the good fruit that it bore, particularly because of the fact that I'm in the church. And I'm going to give that credit to EWTN to a large degree. So now here we go, because you just, again, with the liberals in the church, the newer hards, and all these other people, a newer herd, you got to get into the politics, right? See, I didn't bring up politics, okay? I do that on our podcast at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, which, by the way, you can follow on YouTube and Facebook. And please like, subscribe, and share all that fun stuff. If you like our videos, if you like this video, please share it. But they have to get into the politics, okay? We get into the politics over there, okay? But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a somewhat of a return to tradition and orthodoxy, which seems to be lacking in many parishes, certainly not all, but many parishes and dioceses in the Novus Ordo. So, quote, their politics also tend to be conservative. Many supported former President Donald Trump. I'm sure it makes her very happy to say the word former, okay? But many supported former President Donald Trump. Now, this is the part where, now my anger meter, for all of you who've watched the Frontline with Joe and Joe, everybody knows that I have an anger meter. It's usually when the vein right here starts popping out. This is where I start to get upset, because here's the thing. You want to argue with me? You want to tell me I'm wrong? Okay, then make the argument. Do not tell me I'm stupid. That bothers me beyond belief. Do not pretend for a second that any one of us are stupid and we don't know what's going on. So the vision of the church and social teaching is limited, said Schuth. Quote, it's all about abortion. Nothing else matters, she said, close quote, about their politics. Now, how is it not about the sad reality that 60 million human beings have been slaughtered in their mother's womb since 1973. How on earth can you, Sister Schuth, compare anything else to child murder? We know that you can't. And I'm going to say it one more time. I said it at the top of the show. Okay? Abortion is the preeminent issue. You don't get anything else right. If you can't get that's as a society, and particularly as Catholics in particular, but as a society, America needs to abolish abortion. Abolish, not curtail, not limit, not any of that stuff. We are abortion abolitionists. It is the disqualifier. I am not voting for a pro-choice politician. I'm not. The church says I can. So I'm not going to say in the future that I might not be forced to, if in fact you have a Giuliani-type pro-choice Republican and a member of the party of death as the Democrat. In that case, I may vote for Giuliani, and the church says I can. Or I'll write in my own name. I'll be the only one. I'll be my only vote for myself. But having said that, I'm not voting for baby killers. And you need to get it through your head. I cannot talk to a baby killer about climate change. Not that climate change is real, but that's a conversation for another day. About immigration or about any of this stuff. Wages, workers, trade. Okay. I can't talk about any of that with let's say, for argument's sake, a Joe Biden, because Joe Biden doesn't get baby killing right. So yes, it is all about abortion. I don't take it as an insult. I take it as a compliment. It's all about abortion. Everything else flows from that. If you don't get that right, you cannot get anything else right. So the article continues. In some dioceses and parishes, there is a stickler approach to church rules and regulations far beyond what is normal practice. Now, get this real quick. Normal means what the liberals accept, or what the liberals have done away with everything, and what happens is that becomes normal. Now, any deviation from that is, of course, abnormal. They almost try to make it seem like a psychological problem. You're abnormal if you say, well, where's the communion rails? I grew up in a Novus Ordo parish. Where's the communion rails? Where's the incense? Okay. Where's the paten under the tongue so Jesus doesn't fall on the floor? Where's all that? Okay. So far beyond what is normal practice, said one diocesan priest who requested anonymity to avoid a public disagreement with his boss, the bishop. Okay. Whatever. Hey, listen, there's a lot of good priests out there that are not cowards, and they know they're going to have to confront their bosses who might not be on their side. They open their mouths, and they open their mouths publicly. Why shouldn't this guy? Let me take that back. I said I wouldn't do that. He's a priest. Why shouldn't this priest? Why shouldn't this priest? Nobody wants to remain anonymous. For example, COD, that's father, again, didn't use the word father because these are people who lack respect for anybody they disagree with, okay? One more time, I'll call James Martin Father James Martin because he wears the collar. His hands are anointed, all right? But they don't show that level of respect. So, for example, Father COD, now pastor at St. Thomas Aquinas Church in Charlotte, has asked that all who were baptized, now catch this, guys, all who were baptized in his church in recent years be rebaptized because the proper Vatican mandated formula, the preferred saying is, I baptize, was not used. Previously, a deacon in the parish might use the formula that began, we baptize. Let's get this one straight. I am not a theologian. I am not a canon lawyer. Not going to say that. Everybody I listen to who I believe has a lot of credibility, okay? I baptize is not the preferred saying. I baptize is the only saying. And not as a deacon or a priest say, we baptize. At my godson's baptism, okay, I did not baptize my godson. The priest did. The priest did, not me, okay? It's not we baptized. I baptized. The priest or the deacon has the authority given by the church to baptize that child. Therefore, if you say we baptize, this was in the news, by the way. So some of you might have seen it, okay? And a priest had to go back and get baptized and then receive all the I'm not sure if he had to receive all the other sacraments, but he had to go back and get baptized because either the priest or deacon who baptized him said, we baptize. And then he went back and looked at the video of it. It was like on a old school, like 1980s, 1990s camera. He saw that the priest or the deacon said, we baptize. He said, that's wrong. And he brought it up to the authorities, the authority in his diocese, and they said, you're right. Because it's not the preferred saying. It's I baptize. It's the only way to say it. The only way. Let's keep moving. So while the complaints largely focus on differences in liturgical styles, they also spill over into disputes about how the parish is run. Now, there's a shocker, okay? The role of the lay people, the role of the lay people, particularly women, and the transparency of financial information about the church. St. Elizabeth's Parish hasn't released a financial report in 5 years, and the parish council hasn't met since Buckler became pastor. Now, here's the thing. As far as the finance is concerned, if the priest isn't being transparent, I think the priest should be transparent. We have priests around here. They put the audited financial statement in the bulletin at the end of the year. I got no problem with that. If he doesn't want to be transparent, if I trust the priest, I trust the priest. I don't need to see the numbers. However, I can understand why some people may. Fine. In that case, I will relent on this one and say, all right, maybe if the priest, if people are complaining enough, they want some accountability, the priest can open the books and say, here's what we took in, here's what we paid out, here's what we have left over. But here's the thing. The role of the lay people, particularly women, okay? I have no problem with women, let's say, in the Novus Ordo. My wife was a minister of Holy Eucharist, what they call them, the extraordinary minister of Holy Eucharist. And I told her a number of times, I said, babe, you're probably going to have to start doing that. I said, particularly if we go to a Latin Mass. I said, because I'll tell you what, my wife was a minister or Eucharistic minister, and I was a lector. And I told her straight, and I loved being a lector. I honestly did. I loved it, okay? However, I told her, we go to Latin Mass, you're not going to be allowed to do that, and I'm not going to be allowed to be a lector. We're going to a place where we don't participate. Our participation as a congregation is through the priest who leads us in the Mass, okay, the holy sacrifice of the Mass, leads us in prayers and points us towards Jesus, consecrates bread and the wine into the body and blood, and then we receive on the tongue, on our knees, okay? There is no more lecturing. There's no more Eucharistic minister, none of that. But of course, in the Novus Ordo and amongst the liberals in the Novus Ordo, oh, that's a problem. We need more women. Why? Give me a reason why. I mean, other than the fact that you're saying that they're women, can you give me a reason why? Can you give me a reason why any lay person should be participating in the liturgy? Unless there's an absolute need on the part of the priest. Some of these parishes don't have any priests, which I would argue is a result of the lack of vocations due to the abuses of Vatican II. You brought this upon yourself. But no, I don't belong in the sanctuary at the end of the day. And I know that. And my wife knows that now too. Okay? We do not belong in the sanctuary. Okay? The priests and those who are authorized to be there belong in the sanctuary. But of course, they have to have a problem with that because you know what? It's all about participation. I want to participate. I don't want the priest facing for me. I don't want him to turn his back on me. So, okay, you want him to turn his back on Jesus? Would you prefer he turn his back on Jesus? So, I mean, that's what I don't get. Who is the Mass about? Is the Mass about you? Or is the Mass about Jesus? That's the questions. These are the questions we need to start asking ourselves. Who is the Mass about? The Mass is about Christ. So this is Mary Benson Farthing, a former parishioner. She said, quote, he is taking us back to pre-Vatican II. What? To that time for 1950 years that the church existed before Vatican II? Sorry, Mary. Sorry. Some people want to go back. Some people want more tradition. We won't belabor that because I've said that enough already. She now goes to Mass at another Catholic parish 25 miles away. Well, join the club, Mary. I don't feel sorry for you. Don't feel sorry for me. You have to go out of your way to find a Novus Ordo parish that you're happy in. I have to go travel 25 miles to go to a Latin Mass parish that I'm happy in. So what? Join the club. I have no sympathy for you with that. For those, and I have 3 dioceses. I have 3 within 5 miles of me. 3. And I don't go to any one of them. Okay? And one of them I used to. For those parishioners raised during the advent of the Mass in the vernacular, experienced in post-Vatican II parishes, there is opposition. Of course there is. Farthing was in her 20s during the Vatican II years. Quote, having lived through the 1950s, I don't think I want to go back to that, close quote. Don't know what to tell you, Mary. Well, why are you stopping me from going back to that? You don't have to. Plenty of parishes to take you. Open arms, where you beat us up and detract from us and attack us all you want. I'm simply going to go to Mass, worship Jesus Christ, and I'm going to do it the way the church did it for the last 1950 years before Vatican II. So now this is newer herd again. Buckler has intruded on the spiritual development of parishioners, Farthing said. Oh, this is Farthing, Mary. A parish Bible study group using the Little Rock Guide, popular in many parishes, was told to cease. The series was not orthodox enough, they were told. See now, but the liberals don't complain when the reading materials and the study guides are not liberal enough for them. See, they don't even want middle of the road. They want completely watered down, feel good. We are not here to offend you in any way, Catholicism. That's what they want. You know what I would do? Not that anybody's asking me, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. If I was Pope for a day, you know what I would do? Every single RCIA class is very simple. You start with the catechism and you end with catechism. And those people that are instructing those who are coming into the church are prepared to discuss all the points of the catechism. And if you're not, you can't. And I've been through RCIA, and I walked away from RCIA. One too many references to Father James Martin and one too many references to Teilhard de Chardin was enough for me. They didn't want me there anyway, or at least that's the feeling I got. So guess what? I just stopped going. Or I stopped doing it, which is a shame, because I got the feeling the younger people wanted to hear my big mouth more than they wanted to hear the others' big mouths. So let us continue. So we're only going to be another few minutes, but I want to thank you all for joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Sillo and my partner in crime, Joe Resinello, is tending to the family tonight. So I had a little bit of time, and I saw this article, and I wanted to go through it. And I hope I'm informing you about what goes on, let's say, or what's being written about traditional Catholics out there, particularly when it comes to a left-wing rag like the National Catholic Reporter. So Jack Hellenbrand, and by the way, I'm mentioning their names, these people's names, because Newer Herd mentions their names, not because I went out of my way to go find them. So Jack Hellenbrand came to Boone 16 years ago from Wisconsin. Buckler has disturbed aesthetic sensibilities through his changes. Again, that's Father Buckler, Mr. Newerherd. Father Buckler. You get it? I mean, it bothers me. Buckler has many older parishioners who are part of renovating the church and establishing a simple way to blend visually into the landscape of Appalachians. Let's stop right there, Mr. Newerherd. Let's just say, when the altar rails were ripped out, okay, when the rails were ripped out, ripped the altar and placed in the middle. You know what? Now I'm Italian American. All those parishes around here, down here around my area, around Newark, New Jersey, they were all built by Italian Americans. St. Lucy's and so many other churches. Nobody had a problem with their workmanship when those after Vatican II kicked out the altar, which was done by stone, and all these contractors who gave of their time and their love of the church. These things, when they got out, people like you were applauded. Okay, so too bad. That's my answer to you. Too bad. Sorry if the altar doesn't mesh with the Appalachian side. Okay. Father Buckler put in. Now here's a real terrible sin that Father Buckler committed. Buckler put in giant candles on the altar in what Hellenbrand described as a quote, common in German churches. Hellenbrand, 53, is a teacher of. It is not a look of the modern church which melds with the natural beauty of North Carolina, he said. It all goes back to the. I have a huge problem with that because I have an historical sense, said Hellenbrand. So there you go. There you go. The parish is in, for Mr. Hellenbrand. Am I saying that? Or he sense of history, he said. I have a sense of history. This is all too counter-reformation. So should the church not have had a counter-reformation against Luther and the other heretics? Should we not have had a Council of Trent to answer all the heresy put forth by the Protestants? And to answer a bit of legitimate argument? Should we not have had a counter-reformation? You're saying we should all be Protestant. It's really what you're saying. And it's shocking to me. Because you have a sense of history. When the reformers in England looted all the church property, lusted after the property of the Catholic Church. So Henry VIII used it in the aristocracy. So here's a really big sin committed by Father Buckler. Buckler made sure there were no more girls, and at times he was accompanied by 6 male servers, setting aside pre-Vatican II ritual was to be the norm amongst them. All I can say that is whatever. I mean, listen, if you want altar girl, women participation, it's just a way. It's a way to try to say it's just a big old bad Catholic Church, all just a bunch of men who just want to control women. You have no idea why there's all idea that altar boys, it gives them an opportunity to future no idea about that. So there's no sense in even arguing about that. For you, it's just a matter of feminism, liberal feminism. There's not enough women. There's not enough altar, blah, blah, blah. Here's another one. Incense. The incense was so intense that the fire was called as a church smoke alarm got tripped. She said, lay ministers to the sick told the lay people. Now, my wife and I did this for someone very close to us who had Parkinson's and was dying. My wife was again allowed by our parish to, in a pyx, okay, and along with prayers, bring the Eucharist to this dear friend of ours, okay, who was dying. And I felt very honored to bring that person the Eucharist, okay? But if the guys, don't worry about it, I'll bring it. What's the problem? The priest is doing his job. If the priest says, I don't need you to do something, then don't do it. Let the priest do it. It's properly his role to do it, so do it. But of course, Father Buckler eliminated those people. No, Father Buckler basically told them, I'll do it myself. That's my job, which bravo for him. As far as incense is concerned, again, as my 81-year-old Italian mother would say, it's too bad. It's too bad. Okay, you don't like incense? Again, go to another parish. I'm not going to argue with you about incense. So letters of complaint have been sent to Bishop Juggis, Archbishop Gregory Hartmeyer of Atlanta, the Metropolitan for that region, and Archbishop Christophe Pierre, the Apostolic Nuncio. No one responded to the letters. Father Buckler, Father Codd, and Bishop Juggis declined to speak to National Catholic Reporter for this article. Here's my view. Why should they speak to you knowing how unfair and uncharitable you and your comrades are at NCR? I'll tell you what. I'm going to really bust your onions, okay? I'm going to call Father Buckler and see if we'll come on the front line with Joe and Joe, and I'll break this down with him. At least we'll give him a chance to respond. Now, you're saying you did, okay? But I wouldn't trust you anyway. I wouldn't trust. If you were attacking me, I'm not going to come on and have an argument with you because I know you're not going to be fair. If it was a video argument, you would edit out what you want to edit out. And certainly if it's in print, again, you're going to edit out what you want to edit out because you have a narrative, Mr. Neuhart. You have a narrative. That's what you're trying to do with this article. Tradition, orthodoxy, bad. Vatican II and everything that came after it, good. And for you, it's very cut and dried. You are the extremist, sir. You are the extremist. So now, just a couple more examples. Miss Andy Peters, Andy, A-N-D-I, Peters. Another former St. Elizabeth parishioner, the parish has ceased to be a friendly, supportive environment. She said, quote, Father would prefer to speak in a welcoming place, and it has become an unwelcoming place. Now, here's my first response. Latin has to do with being welcoming or unwelcoming. Okay, that's number one. Number two, that what the church is, that in other words, if I go to in Poland where I don't know the people and I don't speak their language, or I go to a man in, let's say, Spain, I don't know the people and I don't know their language, or any other where the Catholic Church is speaking root. I think it's such a dead language if the church is using it. If the church is using language. Now, people don't speak Latin to us, so I understand and get where you're coming from. But in the church, it was a universal language. that I don't know how to say, how are you, let's say, in Polish. Do you think it matters? I think it matters. I don't think using Latin is a dead language. We'll keep going a little bit. I'm not a little bit of a problem with the stream. I think I'm getting I'm getting attacked a lot in the chat room. Hey, Colin, do my fighting for me, will you? I'm trying to. And yes, Latin, Unborn Lives Matter said Latin is one of the 3 languages nailed to the cross, and the devil hates it. So the preached theology is often strange. Now, here again is where it gets very strange, said one parishioner who noted that one Christmas, I'm saying Father, he says Buckler, explained that the incarnation did not include Jesus, that he arrived in a non-physical way. Here's my question without getting too angry. Did you ever understand the teaching of the church on the perpetual virginity of the Blessed Mother? During the birth of Jesus, she remained a virgin. It sounds awful strange to me, but that's the teaching of the Catholic Church. Or I should say, it sounds strange to you. Virgin, that means in some way done by God, did not come into the world exactly like the rest of us, because Mary's virginity was preserved during the birth of Jesus. Now, that way, he did arrive away. Okay, that, and I would believe that is the perpetual virginity of Mary. Okay, Jesus was incarnate in the womb. He was born preserving virginity, and then he was physical. Whenever he passed through that birth canal, okay, in a very physical way. Again, so I can't say. But Father Buckler is not saying anything strange there, particularly if he's alluding to Mary. Buckler's approach. Truman credited the pastor for being meticulous with liturgy, more piety than I've ever seen shown to the Eucharist, which is usually what the point is when it comes is this lack of reverence for the Eucharist that you see everywhere else. He said, Julia's wife said, there's too much discord in the parish and there should be more unity shown by those opposed to Buckler. So he's right. You're the ones who were decided to go and say mass, go and celebrate mass. That's a lack of unity on your part. I read to you the mass schedule earlier. I read it to the people who are watching me at the front line with Joe and Joe. It's not an owner. It's actually a very accommodating mass schedule. English mass, Sundays, twice on Sundays that you could go to. Why? You're that opposed to Latin? You're that opposed to the priest facing the east, facing the altar? You're that opposed to it? You're the ones who are the ones splitting the church, not traditionalists. You are splitting the church. The Catholic Church does not need this. The Catholic Church does not need this in this day and age, she said, citing those who have chosen to worship at a local Lutheran or Episcopal congregation. Well, sure, you're acting Protestant. I'm sorry how this sounds. You might as well go worship with the Protestants. Go ahead, because you certainly don't like anything that's remotely traditional Catholic. Father John Hoover, who ministers from a small monastic community in Mount Holly, North Carolina, is one of 2 priests who occasionally come to Boone to celebrate Mass with those who have fled St. Elizabeth. See, this idea of fleeing, like they're Nazis, like you have to flee these people. So it's like fleeing the Nazis. You see the language? You see the language that Newer Herd uses? Okay. They meet in the garage amid some half-dozen 1950s remodeled cars gathered around a simple sewing table decorated with candles and flowers. After the homily, Hoover invites participants to talk about their own spiritual struggles, sometimes hearing about the issues raised at the parish. Of course, they're going to go to one priest and they're going to complain about the parish at the other priest. That's okay. That's fair, because I do the same thing. Social distance is maintained and a collection is taken. Of course, social distance is maintained because you basically are lapdogs of the Democrat Party and you do whatever they say. Now, I know that might sound a little uncharitable, but it seems like you're just totally willing to do everything that your Democratic Party masters tell you to do, including wearing that mask. Social distance is maintained and the collection is taken up to pay for the expenses for Hoover and another priest who travel more than 2 hours each way to celebrate the Mass. Hoover told National Catholic Reporter the Mass is a regular Vatican II liturgy with good hymns and a happy atmosphere. Of course it's a happy atmosphere, Father. Of course. It's not so happy over at St. Elizabeth's, he said, as some parishioners choose the garage Mass with its familiar tone over what they perceive as a liturgical blast. Now catch this, liturgical blast from the distant past, now ensconced in the structure they helped build overlooking the Appalachian Hills. Let's get this straight. The Latin Mass is not in the distant past. Okay, in my lifetime, the Latin Mass was celebrated. I was born in 1967. That is not the distant past. You want to make it seem, because you want to attack traditionalists. You say that it's in the distant past. That's 500 years ago. That's 1,000 years ago. No, it's 50 years ago, actually. It's 50 years ago. Okay? 2 years after I was born, I think it was 1969, that's when the Novus Ordo was promulgated. Okay? So 1967, 53 years ago. All right? I was born in a Catholic church that had the traditional Latin Mass. It's not the distant past, Father. You know it's not. So for you to suggest that is just not right. It's just not right. You're trying to attack those who like that Mass or love that Mass or who prefer the Mass. You're just trying to blast them, is what you're trying to do. Lichtman, this was Lichtman from the beginning, okay, the scholar, from her new home in Georgia, also expressed regret, noting that she needed to escape the region to find the kind of post-Vatican II liturgical life taken for granted in most of the country. This is no longer possible in Boone and in many places in the Charlotte Diocese. Quote, it's beyond the one parish, it's the diocese, close quote. Now, underlying all this, and then I'm going to leave you guys alone, underlying all this is the fact that over 90% of this country, a Catholic cannot find the traditional Latin Mass. Is that an exact number? No, because I don't know the number, but I think that's a good guess, okay? And this writer, Peter Neuerhard, and all the rest of those at NCR, National Catholic Reporter, just want to make sure, now this is always their goal, they want to make sure that that figure gets as close to 100% as humanly possible. They will stomp out the traditional Catholic Mass in a second. They don't like the fact that you seek it out. They don't like the fact that you want to even bring more Latin into the Mass, let alone have a Latin Mass. Like I mentioned earlier about the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, who have a totally reverent Mass with Latin hymns, but it's Novus Ordo. Again, they wouldn't want that either. They don't give an inch. Why? Because what? Because they're post-Vatican II Catholics? No, they're leftists. That's what they are. If you want to destroy the traditional Latin liturgy, what is it that you would want to preserve of the church? The teachings that you like and disregard the rest? You don't have time for Vatican I. You don't have time for the Syllabus of Errors. You don't have time for the Council of Trent. You don't have time for anything traditional. And now you attack these people and these good priests because they want to bring some reverence back to the liturgy, particularly because of the view that the parishioners have of the Eucharist. The Novus Ordo, Mr. Neuerhard, has brought us to the point where 30% of American Catholics, 30%, believe in the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. 30%. You don't think that that's a little disgusting? You don't think that that's something that needs to be addressed? And perhaps it's the abuses of the spirit of whatever you want to call it, of Vatican II, and the abuses in the Novus Ordo that perhaps have led to that. I don't blame people when they say that Christ is the Eucharist is a symbol. They don't know any better, because people like you and people like the priests that you like, the ones that you prefer, don't teach them that. They don't teach them that. Afraid maybe that they'll say, well, if it's Jesus, I'm not going to put him on my hand. I'm going to receive on the tongue. If it's Jesus, I'm going to have to get on my knees. That's the King of the universe. That's why you don't teach them about that. And that's why 30% believe in the real presence in America. That's a terrible statistic. That's not a result of traditionalism. It is not. That is a result of you, Mr. Neuerhard. You and the priests like you and all your reporters at the National Catholic Reporter who want to do nothing other than talk about politics while you say you don't want to talk about politics. For you, it's all about politics. For you, it's all about changing the church accommodate those left-wing politics. How you could do that and call yourself a Catholic, I don't know, because you embrace the party of death. You do that with no problem whatsoever. You embrace Joe Biden, but like you'll call him a devout Catholic. I saw on our show, for all of you out there at the front line with Joe and Joe, on our show the other day, commented on Sister Simone Campbell. Okay, nuns on the bus fame. See, Joe Biden has a very developed approach to abortion. So he's got a developed approach to baby killing, which means I'm personally opposed to baby killing, but I can't stop you from killing your baby. You call that a nuanced and developed approach? I don't know what you'd call it. I don't know what you'd call it. But this is what you're all about. This is what you hate Catholic tradition prior to Vatican II, and you will do everything in your power to do away with it. And what you really can't stand more than anything else is that we know that. We all know that. All the good people out here watching us at the front line with Joe and Joe, from Holy Faith Media, from Mother Mary's Militia, and all of you out there. Okay, these people, they don't like you. They talk about love and tolerance. They don't love you. They'll only love you if you do what they tell you. They're not tolerant of you. They're only tolerant of you if you do what they tell you. You're not a good Catholic because you suffer. And you want to know what? They'll call you a Pharisee. They're the biggest Pharisees there are. We beat our chest for our sins. Okay, right next to me, right here, I have my house, my apartment here enthroned to Jesus Christ. Okay, and I beat my chest for my sins, and I know I'm a weak sinner. I know it. I pray for it every day. That's why I don't judge anybody else. Okay, because I'm a weak sinner. That's what I am, and I beat my chest. But people like you, you're the Pharisees, Mr. Newerherd. You're the Pharisees because you look at us and you look at God and then you say, thank God I'm not like that sinner, that intolerant, bigoted, racist, traditionalist, trad, cad. I'm sure you'll come up with a whole bunch of names to thank God you're not like me. You are the ones that are the Pharisees. You are the ones that want to attack church teaching and say that somehow, some way, the church is singling out women, and we know that because of the church's position on abortion. Church never singles out women for anything. Church values life. The church teaches the intrinsic value of human life, that every human life is infinitely valuable in the eyes of God. And no, that life cannot be taken. That innocent human being's life cannot be taken. You know that, but you lie. You distort and you lie, because that's what you do with the National Catholic Distorter. And it's time that people start pushing back against you. So you call me all the time, going on record right now for all the good people watching. Okay? You call me any name you want. I really don't care. You can come on our show, Mr. Newerherd. Okay? Because I'm going to send you this video. I'm going to send you the link. Whether you watch it or not, I don't know. But your article is a hit piece on good priests who are trying to bring some reverence into their parish that they've been assigned to. And I know how hard that is because I had to deal with it. Just a quick story before you go. My parish here, my wife and I, after we got married, we were in Brooklyn. I'm a Jersey guy. We moved to New Jersey, so we were looking for a parish. And I went to our local parish here because upon going there, I heard the priest who was the pastor at the time, Father Jim, give a homily. And I looked at my wife. I said, this is where we need to be. Now, I've been in a Novus Ordo my whole life. I have nothing against the new Mass, nothing whatsoever. Church says it's acceptable, okay? But I love the homily, okay? And I love the fact that he was talking about things that Catholics need to hear, that I needed to hear, okay? But during that time, my wife became a teacher. She was teaching at this parish, okay? Now I'm going to show you the judgmentalism. My wife was teaching the 7-year-olds how to receive communion. And my wife was handed a bag of unconsecrated hosts by the director of religious education, who promptly looked at my wife and said, and you show them how to receive it on the hand. Is that tolerance? Is it? Get in my wife's face, berate her because she knows this DRE knew that my wife was going to teach the kids how to receive not on the hand, but on the tongue. Okay? Or when the same DRE, when my wife is teaching child to pray the Our Father with their hands like this, the same DRE walks over to that child and purposely pulls the child's hands apart so the child is praying like this. This is what you have to put up with. In other words, so those are just examples of the tolerance that my wife and I have experienced, in let's say a regular parish where lay people have so much say. Like I told you, I was in RCIA. I was told by the director of RCIA straight up, she voted for Obama twice and she was proud of it. I held my tongue. I wasn't so judgmental. What I wanted to say is, you're proud of voting for a baby killer twice? Really? I'm sure she voted for Hillary, and I'm sure she voted for Biden. And again, if you're going to do it, you have to stand before Christ. We all will. We're all going to be judged. But don't judge me when I point out the errors of your thinking. When I point the errors out in what you're saying, don't judge me. And that's the reason why I wanted to do this video at the front line with Joe and Joe. I wanted to do this video to let people like Peter Newerhard know, you're going to stop judging us You're going to stop painting these pictures of us that are just not true. You're going to stop disparaging good priests like Father Buckley in that parish in St. Elizabeth in Boone, North Carolina. You're going to stop disparaging his bishop, Bishop Jugas, okay? If you got nothing good to say, then don't say it. Don't say it. So if you want to come on our show, Mr. Newherd, I'm inviting you. Frontline with Joe and Joe, okay? You can get a hold of me. You can hit me up on Facebook. You can hit me up on YouTube. And you could come on. I'm not going to attack you, and I'll keep a very pleasant tone. And we'll pick your article apart, and we'll address some of the things that I addressed in this video, and I'll give you ample opportunity. Let's see if you respond and want to come on my show and our show the way you were so judgmental when you said that Bishop Jugas and Father Buckler didn't want to come on and respond to the NCR article. Let's see how that goes. In the meantime, thank you everybody for joining me here at the Frontline, Joe and Joe. Join Joe and I this Sunday night at 8 o'clock. We'll be on YouTube and Facebook. You could please like, subscribe here to our pages at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on both. Excuse me. Please follow us on Holy Faith Media. Holy Faith Media is the platform we're on. And please like, subscribe, and share. They're phenomenal, and they have Holy Faith Media has a phenomenal lineup that you'll be interested in. And yeah, and I just want to thank you for coming by, listening to my little rant. Hopefully I didn't rant. Hopefully I kind of broke down that article in a way that was informative for you, and that you find some value in it. And until we meet again, remember that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.